Damn. Oh, that was a sneeze.
Dude, oh man. Sorry, you're going to have to edit that out.
Oh, I'm just going to make that the intro.
Oh, God. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of the Magus Brothers podcast. I am Tyler, and with me always is the wonderful...
Hey, y'all, I'm Feyerbrand, and thank you so much for joining us on episode 14. Now, you're probably expecting some weird joke about a Final Fantasy and it being 14, but that's the game we're talking about today. So I guess I like this one. We don't have to argue on Twitter or in Discord about me liking this one because it's very apparent I do. We have all sorts of new information that has come out since the NDA and the embargo?
Yeah, the embargo lifted. The media tour has ended.
Oh, yes. So we got all the juicy tips, tool tips, and information on how all these jobs are changing here coming up in Endwalker, and we're going to go over some of that with you guys.
Yes, and there's too many. There's too many jobs. Actually, let me rephrase that. There's not enough jobs in Final Fantasy 14, but there's too many jobs for us to go over them in one episode. So we'll be breaking this up into two episodes. Today, we're going to go over Tanks and Melee DPS. Next episode, we'll be doing Healers and Magic/Range DPS. I'd like to shout out, because all of this information, we were not part of the media tour, unfortunately. Someday, fingers crossed.
Maybe 7.0.
Yeah. But all of this information we are going over, we obtained from watching videos of either Mr. Happy, Larryzaur, or Ms. Tech, MTQCapture. And we are referencing a job spreadsheet on Reddit, the Final Fantasy 14 subreddit. And it was posted by Devorin, if I said that right. And he or she collaborated, or they, all of the information into a spreadsheet, which we'll be reading off of. So it's a nice condensed version. Links in the episode below if you want to check out all of their content.
And this is some good stuff. This is like the highest of quality stuff. This isn't just something they threw together on a whim. This is very, very well put together stuff. So
color-coded spreadsheets, many tabs. It's very nice.
It's gorgeous. Like the spreadsheet lover in me is in heaven right now.
But without further ado, let's really dive into a lot of these tank changes. As just a heads up, and as a lot of the content creators that attended the media tour specified, but we will also be doing it here. We're not going to go over potencies. And the reason being is because this is the build that the media tour got to play around with is very likely not the final build. We'll see patch notes right before the expansion drops that go over potencies, but we're not going to sit here and talk about or speculate about them because they're probably not final, so we're not even going to waste our breath.
Yep, you've been warned.
But let's dive in, and we're going to start with the tanks. And the first tank we have right here is Paladin. Fair. If you had to sum Paladin up in one sentence, what would you say about Paladin with the Endwalker changes coming up?
Have you ever wanted to feel like a god?
That's pretty apt, because Paladin is super flashy with those tactics, sword saint, like heavenly sword-like type abilities, and all that self-healing now. They just seem unkillable.
Yeah, like the amount of self-heals that they now have is bonkers. Like the survivability is through the roof. Like if you're looking to solo old content or two-man something and you're going to be a tank, I recommend Paladin. There's ridiculous amounts of mitigation and healing in this toolkit now. And highly recommend it. And it's flashy on top of that. It's not boring. It is flashy.
Yeah, and I feel like Paladin for a long time, having friends who have played it and such, Paladin wasn't super flashy until you got towards the later part of the game where 70, they got the big old wings that flew out behind them. And it was like, you protected everyone behind you. And then like all of a sudden it was like, oh, dang, now they're real flashy. And then they got Confiteor at level 80 and the giant sword came up. So they had like this delayed flashiness about them. And now Endwalker just leaned into it with calling swords up from the ground and the heavens and all of that. It's just a very flashy job.
Oh, yeah. This thing oozes style.
So let's dive into Paladin. So retroactively, from 80 beyond, it doesn't look like much has changed with Paladin. Some of the jobs, they kind of retroactively go back and change some things. We're not going to dive into every minute detail about, oh, this trait's this level now and this. We really want to kind of hone into the changes. And not much changed with the Paladin kit pre Endwalker. Shadowbringers and beyond, it's going to play very similarly. But starting at 82, they've got some nice goodies. They've got Holy Sheltron.
Yes. Oh, this ability excites me because like if your party is executing mechanics correctly and like you don't have anything to spend your oath gauge on other than Sheltron at that point, because like your other oath gauge spenders are, like cover and things to protect your party members from mechanics. And if they're executing things well, then you're probably just sort of spamming Sheltron. Now it's even better because it's going to go up to an 8-second duration. Half of that, you're going to reduce an additional 15% damage, and you're going to get a freaking hot as well for 12 seconds, all in one ability. Like this is disgusting. This ability alone is disgusting.
It's not a bad cure potency for just blocking an attack.
No, yeah. And it's a cure potency of 250 over 12 seconds. So what is that? 3, 6, 9, 12, 4, 1,000. That's a 1,000 potency heal. That's insane.
Yeah. And it really, this kind of goes back to some of the stuff we were seeing early on where they were talking about they wanted these defensive cooldowns. Because when we go over the tanks, we'll see that a lot of the tanks have some type of tank cooldown that works similarly to this, where they wanted to reward proper use of a tank cooldown. And we see that with this, where it's an 8-second duration that's a buff. However, that first 4 seconds only reduces damage taken by 15 seconds. So if you save this ability and you use it right before a tank buster, that 4 seconds is 15% damage reduction, and you only get it for that 4 seconds. It's a really tight window that rewards, you'll get the cure potency and that's cool. But like, if you want that damage reduction, you've got to use it within a very specific window. So they're rewarding smart gameplay.
Yeah. And I think that's super, super dope to really put an emphasis on tanks using their mitigation tools more.
At 82, Paladins also get the trait Enhanced Intervention. It extends the duration of intervention to 8 seconds, and then they'll get the Knight's Resolve to the target, which reduces the damage that target takes by 10% for 4 seconds as well. And they get that same cure potency to the target, restoring that HP over time for 12 seconds, just for intervention.
Yeah, it's basically like a mini Holy Sheltron that you can put on anybody you want, and that like I said, duoing content is going to be gross. Like you bring somebody with high DPS and you're just going to be able to just shred old content. It's going to be great.
At 84, Paladin also gets Divine Magic Mastery 2, the trait, and it's going to add a healing effect to Holy Spirit and Holy Circle. So there's more of that healing.
It's ridiculous because like those are Holy Spirit and Holy Circle are part of your rotations. So you're just going to be getting passive healing on something you're doing anyways. It's insane.
Paladin, the heals, man. At 86, Paladin is going to get another ability called, I'm going to pronounce this hopefully semi-decently, Expiation. And it's...
Yeah, that's an upgrade from Spirits Within actually upgrades to that.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Spirits Within to Expiation. I should have read the trait first. But yes, turns that into Spirits Within into Expiation. Expiation is an AoE, so it's 5 yards, so it's a small AoE. Recast times 30 seconds, and it's going to deliver an attack to target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 300 before it's got that AoE fall off. Again, disregard potencies right now. But point is, it's going to restore your MP, and it's an AoE with a 30-second cooldown.
Yeah, it's pretty much same thing as Spirits Within, but now it's an AoE. So it's just going to make it like in every situation now, really that's kind of like the theme where they have all these skills that used to be single target, and now they're making them into AoE just to like really put an emphasis on like clearing out trash mobs and dungeons and stuff faster, and I really like this.
And you're absolutely right. It's going to make dungeon runs faster. But another thing that I see is that it gives them, and it's clever. It's almost like I don't mean this to sound negative, and I hope it doesn't come out as negative, but it's an easy way for them to consolidate hotbars by also making abilities feel new and adding new things to it, instead of being like, oh, well, here's a brand new ability that's just an extra AoE ability. They're just upgrading an existing ability, so they're not adding a new something to put on a hotbar and something to manage. It's just something you've already been using that's now an AoE. So you're going to be stronger and not having to use a new button.
Which is good because our hotbar bloat is pretty insane. And I know Yoshi P came out and said that the game's at its limit with how many abilities and skills everybody has, and they don't want to go any higher than this. So I think finding clever ways like this is a good thing, and I like it.
Yeah, and I don't want to speculate what they're going to do moving forward with 7.0 and abilities and stuff like that.
Oh, no. We'll find out because we're going to be at that media tour. Dang it.
Damn right. And then after Expansion, we get an enhanced trait at 88 for Enhanced Divine Veil, which, guess what? Adds a healing effect to Divine Veil with a cure potency of 400. So
it's
more
so
heals.
insane, dude. Because so Divine Veil is the Paladin's group wide mitigation, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the way it is because like you have to be really smart with it, because the way to trigger it is the Paladin casts it on themselves, and then when they receive a heal, then it pops off them. It does nothing for the Paladin and puts damage mitigation on everybody else, like a shield on everybody else. And but now it's also going to heal everybody. So, oh man, it's crazy. It's so good. I'm so excited for Paladin and Endwalker. I'm really leaning heavily towards Paladin being one of the very first jobs I level after Sage.
Well, let's just put the cherry, or should I say the holy sword, on top for Paladin, because at 90, Paladin gets not one, not two, but 3 blade abilities that start by comboing off their level 80 ability, Confiteor. They get Blade of Faith, Blade of Truth, and Blade of Valor. Not only do they get all 3 of these, but again, to combat that button bloat, it's a new spell-based combo that starts with Confiteor, and when you use Confiteor, it just changes your button for you so that you just have to hit it 4 times. You don't get 4 new buttons or 3 new buttons. You just have that one that just changes, as if you were playing like Estinian or any of the other jobs, like guest jobs. And I think Gunbreaker's got an ability like that, but it's just the one button that just changes the icon automatically for you for a 4-step combo. Again, every hit from this combo restores MP. Blade of Valor, which is the last ability off this combo, puts up a damage over time dot with a potent 21 second duration and an 80 potency for the first enemy, and then of course AoE fall off. Now the AoE cannot be stacked with gore, or the dot can't be stacked with Goring Blade, but if you're in an AoE situation, which, spoiler alert, this entire combo's AoE, you're just going to be
so good.
You're just going through a 4-step combo with the last ability putting a dot on everything, and each one restoring your potency or your MP.
Yeah, dude, like I'm curious as to the MP, like how much MP you're going to get back. Cause like, I wonder if you're going to finish this combo and be, halfway or higher of your MP bar, because that could just be so insane. That's I can't believe they all restore MP. And like honestly, this is mind blowing. Like this truly feels like overpowered. Like this feels too good to be true because of just how absolutely bonkers Paladin is. I already know we are going to see Paladins everywhere in Endwalker, and for good reason. I do not blame a single person for switching to Paladin because of the tools they've given them. Like this is just insane. Like as a healer, if I'm healing a Paladin, you almost don't even need to heal them. Like so unless like with all this extra healing that they're giving these tanks, these self heals, it makes you wonder if they're going to start making bosses hitting harder.
It's possible, but I don't, and we'll read as we go through and kind of keep an eye out for it. But I just don't seem like, even if that's the case, Paladin just seems to get a far heavier handed amount of self healing than the other tanks do. Even if that's the case, it just seems like Paladin is the heal yourself tank.
Well, Warrior, that used to be Warrior. Like Warrior right now already has ridiculous amounts of sustain. Like they don't have an actual heal like Clemency, but Warriors, which we're going to talk about next, have a lot of sustain. They are truly too angry to die.
And maybe the trade-off at the end of the day is that while Paladin seems flashy and their survivability is just seemingly off the charts, maybe the trade-off is that Paladin is weaker DPS. But honestly, with this survivability, to be able to go and, like we talked about, go back and solo content or two-man content with this type of utility, and to be this flashy and to look this cool doing it, and then to have this like 4-step spell combo with all of these holy swords flying in everywhere, like, dude, who cares? You're gonna look good doing it.
No, who cares? I live for the blade combo. Like that's what my life's gonna revolve around.
All right, so kind of moving past Paladin, we're gonna dive into Warrior a little bit. So Warrior is a job I have almost zero frame of reference for. I leveled it back in the day to get like cross-class abilities. I am not as familiar with it like Paladin is. But, you know, kind of like we talked about with Paladin, not much changed with Paladin from like their old kit. However, one of the changes is it sounds like inner release got changed. Fair, tell us a little bit about that.
Inner release. So inner release used to be, I believe, a buff time. And now they've changed it to where it has like charges. So you'd use it, and now you have like the next 3 weapon skills are going to, you know, cost no beast gauge and then be direct criticals, rather than relying on your ping with the server to make sure you fit as many in the window as possible. Now it's just a flat, the next 3 weapon skills. So like, that's going to be really good for people with like really bad ping, but I could see some people caring about that. But like overall, I think this is how they need to change all abilities that have a window like this,
so that you're not just relying on your internet connection or something going wrong. You just have those charges that you can use, you know, and have that flexibility with, instead of going, I need to hyper focus this 15-second window.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that's a better way to go, especially with like, I know in the United States, the servers are on the West Coast, I believe. And while you and I, we're both, you know, on the West Coast for the most part, people on the East Coast might be feeling that ping a little bit. And not even just the ping, because while you're absolutely right, you know, that ping to the server is one thing, but then you also have your internet connection, which can vary wildly for lots of different reasons, you know, depending on the person or the player or their location. So, you know, you could have lag for many, many reasons, and not having to worry about that optimized 15-second window gives you that flexibility. Yeah, it's just a good change overall, and I'm here for it. These are the kind of changes that we need to see going forward, and it sounds like, you know, they're tuned into them, so we'll most likely be seeing it a lot.
So let's dive into the new Warrior stuff. So again, at 82, they get an upgrade, Raw Intuition trait. So Raw Intuition becomes Bloodwetting, and Bloodwetting is going to sound very similar to Holy Sheltron. It's an 8, baseline reduces your damage by 10%, but it's an 8-second buff. You're going to restore HP with each weapon skill successfully delivered with a cure potency of 400. So again, we're looking at that self-healing there, and that looks pretty juicy.
That's good, yeah.
And then you're going to have Stem. It's going to grant Stem the Flow, which lasts for 4 seconds, and it's going to reduce the damage taken by an additional 20%. So they get like, what, for 4 seconds, 20% total? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, 20% total.
And then they get the Stem the Tide, also is going to creates a barrier around self that absorbs damage equivalent to a heal potency of 400 for a 30 seconds. So essentially, you get a shield worth that much heal that's going to prevent damage.
Yeah, it's insane. This is another insane ability right up there with Holy Sheltron, but it fits a little more like, you know, in the class lore, like class vibe or identity. The flavor of the job. This definitely fits more into warriors, and I think this is a super cool ability. I'm leveling my warrior next, and I'm excited to see how that's going to. How much I'm going to be looking forward to that ability. So,
and then on top of that, at 82, they get that enhanced nascent flash, which again, similarly to the what ability was it? Intervention that Paladin has. It's going to grant those same abilities to a target. So reduce the damage by 10% for 4 seconds, nullify damage equivalent to it with a heal potency of 400. So another shield. So, you know, depending on who's tanking or off tanking, you could use those abilities on the off tank or the main tank for additional additional buffer, healing, shields, or if you're two-manning content, you get some extra pad there. It's a great ability.
Yeah, they're really making, they're just making all of tank skills just so much better. It's so good. And like being a good tank, like a super good tank, it's going to be very obvious when you're not a tank, when you're with somebody who is, because, you're going to see these abilities going out onto party members as, they're about to get hit by an unavoidable attack. And it's just going to make, take a tank doing that takes, one or two global cooldown uses away from the healer, which now the healer gets to DPS for one or two more global cooldowns, and
heal somebody else.
It's just going to make things so much faster.
Yeah. And then at 84, Warrior gets 2 traits. They get Enhanced Equilibrium, which grants healing over time to self for 200 potency and a 15-second duration.
Yep. As if Equilibrium wasn't good. Now it's even better.
And then they also get Melee Mastery, which I'm not going to go over to the actual potency changes for that because, again, they could change. But basically, Heavy Swing, Maim, Storm's Path, and Storm's Eye are all getting a flat potency buff. Now, I don't know if this, obviously it's a buff, but I don't know if this is a buff meant to combat those damage calculations they were talking about. And this is kind of a way to smooth that out. And they just kind of like sneakily or cleverly added it in as a trait to help kind of balance out those potencies. But point is, you get a trait where you're getting your abilities buffed. It's pretty tight.
Yeah, we see this actually on a handful of jobs where they're getting this up here in the mid 80s of their main combos getting a potency increase. So I'm not sure if that is because of the way they're calculating damage changes, or if this is just because, hey, we just feel like they need a little bump because the other tanks or whatever are outperforming them. But either way, who's going to say no to more damage?
Right. And it is worth pointing out that we don't see that on Paladin. So again, we have no idea what rotation and DPS is going to look like. But, it is a clue to me that Warrior is getting potency buffs on their attacks, whereas Paladin isn't. So maybe, again, kind of like what I was saying, maybe Paladin isn't going to be like the DPS king of tanks, but it's still going to look real good.
Yeah.
At 88, Warrior gets Enhanced Onslaught, which allows a 3rd charge of Onslaught. I have no idea what Onslaught is.
That's their gap closer.
Ooh, so they get 3 charges of their gap closer?
Yes, dude, that is so good. My favorite ability, I love gap closers. Just like having the mobility, I just love gap closers so much. And previous what?
Summoner gets a gap closer.
I know. I know. I'm excited to play Summoner, man.
I'm actually going to have a gap closer. I'm going to know what it feels like.
Dude, gap closing feels so good. It feels so good. Well,
we'll Summoner next episode. I'm excited.
So Onslaught also previously used to cost 20 beast gauge, and now it costs nothing, just like everybody else.
Is that a retroactive change?
Yeah, that's not like a trait or anything. They're just removing that completely Endwalker launch. So you're going to have 3 charges of Onslaught for free. And if I remember right, don't quote me on this, but I'm like 99% sure they are increasing the range of all of these gap closers for tanks from 20 to 25 yalms.
Ooh, that would be hot. We'd have to go back and find like those kind of older tooltips. But if that's the case, that's still pretty tight.
Dude, that's so good because like one of my biggest things with tanks is that their ranged attack to pull a trash mob and their gap closers are like, you have to be too close so that like let's say I throw a tomahawk. That's the warrior's like long range pull ability. Mm-hmm. If I'm standing still and I throw a tomahawk, I have to be so close that by the time the enemies get to me, that whole pack, my global cooldown still isn't over. So I still have to wait a split second before I can start AoEing. And by then my healer has probably already thrown out a heal and they probably pulled aggro.
Okay.
Now by just adding that extra 5 yalms, that's going to remove that completely. If I can gap close from further or throw my ranged from further, my global cooldown will finish and I can go straight into a rotation or AoE combo or whatever so that I don't have to worry about that. And it has annoyed me so much. It like every time I ranged pull something, it annoys me. So we're going to be seeing that different and I'm so excited for it.
That's hot. And then for their creme de la creme, their level 90 ability, Warrior's going to get Primal Rend, which is an AoE, and it's a weapon skill. It's going to deliver a critical direct hit to target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of placeholder, 700 for the first enemy, and then a 70% AoE fall off, which is kind of hefty. Normally we see only 50%, so I don't know if that'll stay or not.
But it's also going to be correct. critical direct hit.
So maybe that's the trade-off there. But point being, pretty heavy hit. That's a direct crit hit to all enemies in a 5-yard radius. It's not going to consume any of your inner release stacks, but it can only be executed while under the effect of Primal Rend Ready, which is granted by inner release.
Yeah, and if I remember right, like you use your 3 inner release stacks, and then once you've consumed those 3, then you receive the Primal Rend Ready buff. So you're going to be like dishing out, like that burst window is going to be absolutely bonkers.
That's hot. That's really cool. I didn't like knowing how those all interact with each other. I didn't realize that. So that's tight.
Yeah, Warrior is going to still be its flashy self. It's, like everybody loves to fell cleave. Don't say you don't. Fell cleave is satisfying. Like you feel that.
That's why you're playing a warrior.
Bones. It is. And now you're going to have an AoE that crit direct hits. Oh gosh, dude, that. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, and I know we mentioned this last time, but I just want to throw this out there. The damage buff warriors, it's going to be added to their AoE combo now.
Oh yeah, that's right. So instead of having to go to a single target situation to get your buff back, it's just tied into your AoE skills now. So now you can just AoE and keep that buff up. That's great.
Yeah, actually, my one line for Warrior was, I bet you like to AoE now, huh?
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask that with Warrior. I can't forget that. All right. So
yeah, that was my Warrior one.
So moving past Warrior and into Dark Knight, Fayer, hit us with a Dark Knight one-liner to kind of.
Okay, I have 2, and I can't decide which I like better.
Okay,
the first one is truly embrace the darkness now that you're depressed that this is your main, because Dark Knight is because Dark Knight just didn't get the love it deserved. And then my second one is just call me Cecil because I'm going to be a paladin.
Wow, I was hoping one was more positive than the other, but
no, they're not, dude. No. Dark Knight got a big old steaming pile of poop this expansion, and out of every single job for Endwalker, Dark Knight needs the 6.1 rework the most, hands down.
Well, we'll see what they bring. It does seem like, looking over this and just the number of lines and stuff that is devoted, Dark Knight didn't have a lot done to it, but let's talk about what they did have done to it.
Okay.
So at 52, they have that Salted Earth. Is that their little AoE ability?
Yeah, so that was originally a place marker one, but
where
now
you have to target it yourself with a mouse and
yes,
drop it.
Yes. Now, just so you guys know, Salted Earth will just drop right at the Dark Knight's feet in a circle around them, which is worse. That is not better. That is worse. But now it got a combo ability. So.
And at 52, it combos into Salt and Darkness, which is all enemies standing in that corrupted patch of Salted Earth will take an additional damage with potency of placeholder 500. And
that's cool. Like, I like that. I think that's a cool ability, and
you don't have to assign it to a hotbar. It's just going to combo off. The button will change by itself.
Yeah, like we figured that was going to happen, but just because of the bloat. But I'm just angry that Salted Earth is now at your feet.
I personally like that because going back to the Shadow Flare days of Summoner, I hated targeting the AoE placement, and I did not enjoy it.
Well, so like as a tank, if I go pull wall to wall, right? Let's say I have 20 mobs, okay? And I pull them all the way to the wall and I stop and I put my back to the wall and I drop Salted Earth, half of that might be inside the wall. Or if let's say I scoot out a little bit from the wall.
Is it still a dot on the ground?
Yes.
Oh.
So let's say I stand a little bit away from the wall and drop it. So now I'm standing in the middle of the circle. Now I have to backpedal up to get all 20 of these mobs in that circle. Whereas when I had the placement, I could just stand there and decide where I wanted it. So this is not a good change.
I'm not a big fan of dots based off of a ground AoE to begin with, because while that forces a level of intelligent gameplay, like when you're fighting a boss, for example, you want to put it down when you know the boss is going to be stationary, so you have to be aware of the mechanics of the fight and if the boss is going to jump away or if you're going to have to reposition. It does force you to think about it. But when you're doing 4-man content and like trash pulls and stuff like that, and you constantly are having to adjust because the AoE just gets madhouse, it's just lame. Like I have a ground-based AoE dot with the Garuda E-Guy as a summoner right now, and then I'm going to have another one with Garuda even in Endwalker, the actual summon. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of that particular type of ability. So
I agree. Like Ninja got, like they have Doton, which is the same, ground-based circular dot.
I thought that Dark Knight AoE was honestly like a I forgot that it was a dot. I thought that maybe
Yeah.
with the change, it was just like a pulse that came out from around you. And I was like, that's tight. You're always going to hit everything around you. But if it's just a ground-based AoE that originates at your feet, that's only fixing like not really the problem.
No, it doesn't at all. I really want to see a shakeup to the entire ground-based circular dot mechanic throughout the game, not just for Dark Knight. I think it needs to be re-looked at and readjusted because, like, if that's part of your bread and butter as far as like your damage goes, like you could potentially be losing out on damage, and that sucks.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's Feyerbrand. So Dark Knight at 82, their first actual, no, Consultant Darkness was new, but their new Endwalker kit. At 82, they get Ablation or Abladian. Oh, I'm going to call it Ablation.
It's irrelevant.
And it's irrelevant.
Well,
and
they have the Blackest Night.
well, now they get Ablation too.
I don't want it.
And it's going to reduce damage taken by a party member or self by 10%. It lasts for 10 seconds, and it's got 2 charges. And a 60-second recast time for each charge.
Just give me a second charge of the Blackest Night. Like, this Oblation's a completely pointless ability. I think it's stupid. It totally pulls away from the whole point of Dark Knight. And
well, what did the Blackest Night do?
So the Blackest Night puts a shield on you or target party member for 25% of their total health. It lasts 7 seconds. And if that shield pops, then the Dark Knight gets to use one of its big MP spending damage abilities for free.
Do they still have the Blackest Night? Like, that didn't go away, right?
Oh, yeah. No. They still, if they took that away, I'm pretty sure people would have rioted. It's like the only reason to play Dark Knight. It's literally the only reason at this point.
So what's the, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but playing devil's advocate a little bit, what's the downside? It just sounds like they've got the Blackest Night, which you also have, and you didn't look. Plus, you get this new ablation ability with 2 charges and reducing damage taken for 10%. It just seems like you're getting even more damage reduction stuff to use.
Well, that's the thing. The Blackest Night is a shield that blocks 25% of your total health. That is way more than a 10% damage mitigation.
So you're saying you would have just preferred to see more charges of the Blackest Night instead of this new damage reduction ability?
Absolutely. I would have rather have seen the Blackest Night charge, or make it last 10 seconds rather than 7, just because like once you're really geared as a Dark Knight, very few things actually pop that because you have so much health. But yeah, this feels like, we don't know what to give them. Just give them something that everybody else already has that they're probably never going to use anyways, because if they have a choice, they're just going to use the Blackest Night anyways. Why would I ever use this over TBN? I literally can't see a reason. Unless it's it's on Blackest Night's on cooldown, which it's not even that long of a cooldown. Like, I don't know. It's pointless. I'm angry.
No, okay. Well, it doesn't sound like you're going to be playing Dark Knight to begin with. Well, I mean, you'll play it, but like, you're not going to love it unless it gets a nice little rework in 6.1, which fingers crossed, maybe.
I really hope so.
At 84, Dark Knight gets 2 traits. They get Enhanced Unmend, which is going to reduce the cast time of Plunge by 5 seconds when executing Unmend.
Plunge is your gap closer. Unmend is your ranged attack.
Okay. So you just unmend and it's going to
Oh my God, dude, I am so angry. This is the dumbest thing I have ever seen in my life. When the flip is this ever going to be useful?
Having not played a tank or really playing melee, I can't tell you.
Like, Plunge is already a 2-charge gap closer.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe like if you have to run out of an AoE and then you start unmending over and over to try to bring your Plunge off cooldown so you can gap close back in. But like, that shouldn't be one of my new skills. That should be retroactively put back at like level 42 or whatever, not one of my level 84 brand new Endwalker abilities. Give me a break.
It does seem like this should have been something that would have been retroactively added, like a 5-second recast time on Plunge, like regardless of what Unmend does, just reducing the recast time for Plunge by 5 seconds doesn't seem like a lot. I don't know. It just seems like they just kind of added it in there to just add something. I don't know.
Dude, that's the entire Dark Knight Endwalker kit is like, let's just add, I don't really have any good ideas. Dark Knight's already basically like a baby warrior with the Blackest Night, so just give it whatever. Like, it has no job identity outside of the Blackest Night and having literally hands down the worst tank and vulnerability ability.
Oh yeah, it's rough.
Like why? There's nothing. Like, it has no identity anymore. It was supposed to be the use MP tank to do more damage, but they basically removed that. Like, that you don't have I need a 6.1 rework. That I need it.
Well, I'm gonna keep powering through. At 84, they also get melee mastery, so their hard slash, siphon strike, and soul eater are going to get some potency buffs similar to what warrior got. And at 88, they get another trait called Enhanced Living Shadow, which is going to increase the potency of attacks dealt by your Living Shadow, your Simulacrum, to placeholder 300. So whatever it ends up being, your Living Shadow is going to hit harder. And then at 90, Dark Knight gets two things. They get the enhanced trait, Living Shadow 2, which like that's like a quick jump. Like you get an enhanced Living Shadow at 88, and then at 90 it gets level 2. And it's going to upgrade their Simulacrum's Flood of Shadow to Shadowbringer, which delivers an attack to all enemies in a straight line with a potency of 450 placeholder for the first and 25% less for remaining enemies, which ties back into the Dark Knight's level 90 ability, which is Shadowbringer. And it's got 2 charges, which is kind of cool that it just right out the gate has 2 charges. 60-second recast time for each charge. It's a 10-yard radius, and it's a range of 10 yards. Before I go into what it does, which, spoiler alert, it's very similar to Living Shadow 2, the fact that Dark Knight's level 90 ability is called Shadowbringer, kind of tight. I will give it that.
I'll give you that. That's got some flavor right there. I enjoy that a lot.
But Shadowbringer is an AoE ability. It's going to deal unaspected damage to all enemies in a straight line before you with a potency of placeholder 600 for the first enemy and 50% less for all remaining enemies. So it's a nice 2-charge AoE ability that's just got a cool name, and it's a big shadowy straight line in front of you.
Yeah, I'm hoping...
Still hoping for a rework.
I feel they should have added a healing effect to Shadowbringer to bring Dark Knight up on par with the self-healing of all of the other tanks.
Oh yeah, because not a single one of these abilities mentions anything about self-heal.
Dark Knights have 2 self-heals. One of them is baked into their 1-2-3 combo, and the other one is on like a 1-minute cooldown called Abyssal Drain, and it's pretty strong. It's a huge AoE with a cure potency of 200 each. But like if you're on a boss, that's only 200 potency heal. Dark Knight needs more sustain. Dark Knight needs a rebuild. I'm hoping, like honestly, what I'm hoping, like they knew that Dark Knight needs to be rebuilt, and they just gave it some whatever abilities, already knowing that they're gonna rebuild it come 6.1. And like this is what I'm telling myself so I can sleep at night. That they already know it's going to change in 6.1, and they wanted to have that one job that everybody wants changed. So then they rebuild it, and everyone's like, "Oh yes, thank you, Square. You guys are so awesome. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the feedback." And it's all a trick.
Well, I will say this. It does seem like Dark Knight did not get a lot in comparison to the other tanks. And the 2 things that I notice is that 3 things. One, that enhanced unmend with the recast timer reduction for plunge by 5 seconds seems kind of meh. It seems like a weird thing to add in a trait at level 84. But the 2 big things I notice is no self heals, and they don't get one of those cool tank buff upgrades like that Warrior and Paladin got, and that Gunbreaker is going to get, that we're going to dive into, like that 82 ability. Instead, they got 82, which they got a 2-charge shield that they get to do damage reduction for 10%. And I'm not saying that's not nothing, but like that's also not as in-depth or involved as the other tanks. So I don't know.
Like I would have rather have seen, rather than enhanced unmend, just give us a 3rd charge of plunge. People would have been so much more happy with that. And then also like give all those buffs to the Blackest Knight. That is like the Dark Knight skill. Like that's why you like to tank as Dark Knight, because the Blackest Knight is so much fun to use. I would have rather seen it also get, throw some heals on the other end of it or something, or after it pops, you get additional mitigation, just something. Like I just want to see more with Dark Knight. Dark Knight's not in a good place, but it is flashy. Dark Knight is so cool. It's so cool.
And Dark Knight does look cool. It's flashy, and it has that going for it. Let's just hope that they gave Summoner this great rework, and they even did some not as major but some really great reworks with Monk. So maybe 6.1. We'll see something done with Dark Knight. But we are hoping for more and for better, but we can't sit here and talk about it because we got to move on to Gunbreaker.
Oh yeah, Gunbreaker, one-liner. What did I have for Gunbreaker? Oh, we heard you like to shoot stuff. Well, now you can shoot stuff deader.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's the one I was hoping you were going for, and we'll circle back around to that soon. But 82 Gunbreaker, they get a trait and an ability, and we're going to touch on the trait first, which is the Heart of Stone Mastery, which is going to upgrade Heart of Stone to Heart of Corundum. I want to say Conundrum.
That's what I thought it was until I slow read it. That's
Corundum.
That's a weird word,
right? What they just wanted to trick people into saying Conundrum. So I'm just going to say Conundrum. 82. The new ability is Heart of Conundrum. It's not. It's Corundum. Please don't believe me.
Believe him.
And again, similar to what Warrior and Paladin saw, it's going to have a flat damage reduction of 15% by reduces damage by a party member or self by 15%. It's an 8-second duration. Additional effect when targeting a party member while under the effect of Brutal Shell. That effect is also granted to the target. I don't know what that means.
Brutal Shell is part of your 1-2-3 combo. It's your number 2, and it puts up a shield based on how much damage you did.
Okay, there we go. And so that's going to have a 30-second duration. An additional effect is it's going to grant clarity of Corundum to target, which is going to reduce damage taken by an additional 15% for 4 seconds. So that's like a 30% total damage reduction if you put that on yourself. That's a lot. Then you're also going to get Catharsis of Corundum to target, and that's going to restore HP when HP falls below 50% or upon effect duration expiration, and it's a 10-second.
It's so good. It's an XCOG from a scholar. That's such a good heal, dude.
So pretty nice. Very involved tank cooldown or party buff cooldown, similar to Warrior and Paladin. It's just really, really nice all the way around.
Yeah, Gunbreaker's in a good place. Gunbreaker's already in a good place, but now Gunbreaker's in a really good place.
So at 84, they get 2 traits. They get Enhanced Aurora, which is going to allow the accumulation of charges for consecutive uses of Aurora, and it's going to upgrade it to a maximum of 2 charges.
Yep, that's your targetable hot.
That is hot then.
Aha.
And at 84, they get a Melee Mastery, which again, similar to what we've seen before, Keen Edge, Brutal Shell, and Solid Barrel are going to get potency upgrades, and I believe that's your 1-2-3 combo. Am I correct?
Yep. Yeah, that's all these have been the 1-2-3s.
So just potency upgrades all around. At 86, they are going to get an enhanced trait called Enhanced Continuation.
Yep.
And it changes Become Ready to Blast after executing Burst Strike. And it's a 10-second duration.
Yeah, that's super cool. So Burst Strike was sort of like your cartridge spender when all your other cartridge spenders were on cooldown. And now they're just giving it a follow-up, which that's super dope. More DPS. Because the follow-up is off global cooldown.
Yeah, so Ready to Blast, what we're going to use it on is at 86. You also get the ability Hyper Velocity, and it delivers an attack with a potency of placeholder 200, which can only be executed when Ready to Blast. And you cannot assign it to a hotbar, so it's part of that combo. So Burst Strike is just going to become Hyper Velocity.
Well, it's either that or your continuation button will change to that.
Okay. So continuation button. So
yeah, so your continuation button right now is already 3 buttons baked into one.
Okay.
So now they just may add a 4th. I think. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea.
That sounds plausible.
Either way.
At 88, Gunbreaker, harkening back to the funny one sentence name you gave it, it increases your powder gauge capacity to 3 cartridges. And executing Bloodfest stores 3 cartridges.
Yeah, like just get ready to shoot everything. Shoot it deader, like is great. I love it.
All right, and then their level 90 ability, which is again heavy emphasis on the placeholder of the potency here, but.
I hope it's real. I hope this is true.
But even with the placeholder, I hope the number I'm about to read really emphasizes how hard this ability is going to hit, regardless of if it gets adjusted. It's a 60-second cooldown. It's an AoE, and it is going to deliver an attack to all nearby enemies with a potency of placeholder 1,200 for the first enemy, and then only 20% less for all remaining enemies. So not even a big reduction in damage. No. It costs 2 cartridges, but you do have 3 now.
Yeah.
And it does not share a recast timer with any other action.
No,
It is called Double Down. I don't know if I read the name. I was too excited about the potency.
I don't know. It's disgusting. Like, in a good way. This is a beautiful ability. 1200 potency AoE with only 20% fall off. That's insane. I love it. Like, if they were to revert the Gunbreaker sound effects, I'd be Gunbreaker again. It's so good.
All right. So that sums up tanks. We are going to move on to melee DPS. But Fair, any closing thoughts on tanks, just to kind of sum it up?
Yeah, it's a great time to be a tank. Great time if you're looking to solo. If you're looking to get into old content, like unsynced or two-manning content, any sort of like challenge runs or what have you. Level one of the 3 tanks that have sustain, especially Paladin. I think Paladin's really going to be the king because they have a nice mix of mitigation and self-healing. So I think tanks are in a good spot.
And the one thing I want to emphasize is while Fair and I were Fair was harsher, but we were both pretty harsh with Dark Knight. If you play a Dark Knight, please don't let us discourage you from doing it. All of these jobs will be able, regardless of whether Dark Knight gets a rework or not, all of these jobs will be able to clear the content that is in the game. However, we do worry that in endgame, the top 1%, 10% of players pushing extreme world clears, progging, the 8-man raids, et cetera, we do worry that Dark Knight might not see the play action that some of the other tanks do. We could be wrong. We are not prog raiders ourselves, but it just seems like Dark Knight didn't get that same level of attention. However, it will be able to clear all content. Please level a Dark Knight if that's what you identify with. Don't let us deter you from playing everything or playing that job. Play the job you love.
Absolutely. I second that. Very well put.
And the one thing, my takeaway from the tanks is that if you want to hit things real hard, play a warrior or play a gunbreaker.
Yeah.
And if you want that just insane utility and survivability, it really seems like it's going to be Paladin. Warrior seems like it's got a lot of healing stuff in there too. Don't get me wrong, but Paladin just seems like it's got a lot. And then Dark Knight, if you want to look edgy and flashy, you've got your Simulacrum, bro, and you want to just look hella cool doing it, wielding that giant sword with cloud stance. Dark Knight does have, like, the Blackest Night is a great ability. They've got some cool stuff going on.
The Blackest Night carries it.
They just didn't get a lot of new stuff. So, pick your poison, but tanks look great.
Yep. Great time to be a tank. Highly recommend you play one.
So moving away from tanks, we are going to dive right into the melee DPS, and we are going to start with Dragoon. Fair, give me something good for Dragoon.
I don't have a good one for Dragoon. It's literally just, we heard you like to AoE, so we gave you some more AoE.
That seems very accurate because it seems like a lot of the new stuff is really kind of focused around AoE for Dragoon.
Well, Dragoon they already have, as a melee DPS, have 5 AoE ability. No, not including their 2 jumps. They have 5 AoE abilities.
Well, now they get more.
I know, it's insane.
So one of the things that retroactively got changed with Dragoon is at 54, their Blood of the Dragoon trait is going to increase the potency of jump to 320 and Spine Shatter dive to 250. So, get placeholder numbers there, but their jumps are getting a boost.
Also, just to throw that in here, something that's being changed right out the gate. It's not a trait or anything. Blood of the Dragon's a passive. You don't have to maintain that buff anymore.
And don't they? Or was this not Dragoon? Or was it Dragoon? No, that's Samurai. Never mind. Ignore me. But yeah, you don't have to juggle that timer anymore. I was like, oh yeah, they're AoE buff. Like now they do it with the AoE. I was like, nope, that was Samurai.
And Warrior.
But we had already talked about Warrior. I was like, it was another melee job, but not the one I was thinking. So moving to the Dragon, at 82, they are going to get a trait called Enhanced Coerthan Torment, which is going to grant the effect of Draconian Fire after successfully completing a combo with Coerthian Torment, and it's going to upgrade Doom Spike to Draconian Fury while under the effect of Draconian Fire.
Yep.
Which ties neatly into their new level 82 weapon skill, Draconian Fire or Fury. So it's a AoE, shocker, and 10-yard radius, and it's going to deliver an attack with a potency of 130 placeholder to all enemies in a straight line before you. And as an additional effect, it's going to sharpen the first mine's focus by 1, and it can only be executed while under the effect of Draconian Fire, and it can't be assigned to a hotbar, so it's just gonna change a button there for button bloat.
Yep. Yeah, so basically, we already have seen this with Dragoon with Raiden Thrust currently, where if you execute your single target combo, then your first button in your 1-2-3 combo turns into raid and thrust. Well, now we're seeing the exact same thing happen, but on the AoE side, because where did it go? Doom Spike is the beginning of your AoE combo, and executing your AoE combo makes it to where now Doom Spike changes into a stronger ability. So it's pretty in line with the Dragoon feel.
So more and better AoE, which seems to be a theme. At 84, a new trait they're going to get is called Enhanced Spine Shatter Dive, which is going to allow the accumulation of charges for consecutive use of Spine Shatter Dive. 2 charges now of that dive ability.
I love that because Spine Shatter Dive is their gap closer. One of their 3 gap closers. 4 gap. It's one of their gap closers.
They just gap close all day.
And like as a Dragoon, I never had Spine Shatter Dive when I needed it because I was putting it into my rotation for more DPS. And now having 2 charges just give me a little more flexibility to be able to actually use it as a gap closer. And this is great. I love it. Perfect.
Yeah, you can either just cycle it in for even more damage or, sit on a charge and, wait in case you need it.
Yep. It's great.
At 86, they get a new trait called Lance Mastery 3, which is going to upgrade Full Thrust to Heaven's Thrust and Chaos Thrust to Chaotic Spring, which circles right back into their new weapon skill abilities at 86, Heaven's Thrust, which delivers an attack with a potency of placeholder 100, but it combos off of Vorpal Thrust into a potency of 430. And as an additional effect, it's going to grant Sharper Fang and Claw. And then at 86, they also get Chaotic Spring, which is going to deliver an attack potency of 100, but it's going to be 140 placeholder when executed from a target's rear. It's going to combo off of Disembowel with a potency of 240, rear combo bonus potency of 280, and it's going to give a dot with a potency of 45 for 24 seconds, and it's going to grant Enhanced Wheeling Thrust. Whew, that was a lot.
Yeah. So basically this is, wait, okay. Yeah, no, I was a little confused there. So now this is out of your 2 5-part combos, this is number 3. Both your number 3s got upgraded. And I'm a little torn on this because Chaos Thrust's animation is one of my favorites. It's one of my big favorites of Dragoon. And I'm really hoping Chaotic Spring looks as good or better because Chaos Thrust just looks so cool. It was the one where you're like flipping your spear around and like there's all like the rose, like the pink rose petals or whatever flying all over the place, and then you stab them.
Yeah, I remember that. And isn't Full Thrust the one where you do like an uppercut with the lance?
Yeah, it's your 3rd one. It's your highest hitting attack, single target attack.
Heaven's Thrust is an appropriate name. Maybe you're just going to uppercut them even higher now. I don't know.
Dude, I would love to see it to where like you do a Heaven's Thrust and then immediately into a jump. So you Heaven's Thrust up into the air and then just jump straight up.
Oh, man. Okay, so Fair, before I go into their level 88 trait, isn't Life Surge the one that gives you a guaranteed crit?
And heals you.
This is tight. Okay, so 88, Enhanced Life Surge, which is going to let you have maximum charges of 2 for Life Surge. So now Life Surge has a 2 charge stack. How hot is that?
That's so good, dude. Like life surging a full thrust, which is now going to be Heaven's Thrust. You saw some truly ridiculous numbers and massive amounts of healing back. But now we're going to have 2 charges of it and we'll have it on Heaven's Thrust. So I wonder if it'll be, so I don't really know the way like dots are calculated, but I wonder if we can life surge the Chaotic Spring. And I wonder if that dot is going to get the bonus of the crit or if it's a flat. I don't know how dots work. I'm curious to see where we want to use that second life surge at, or if it's just going to be like a flexibility, like you ate a mechanic and you need some health back real quick, so you have a second charge. I'm excited to see the theory crafting once the people in like the Balance Discord really get to play around with this, because this is exciting. Yeah,
that's a good thought. I don't know, but the point is having a second charge of an ability that grants you a guaranteed crit is never a bad thing.
No, it's so good. Dragoon's in a good spot.
Oh man. All right. And let's finish it up, because not only does Dragoon get a level 90 ability, the trait on top of it. And this trait sounds tight. So Lance Mastery 4 at level 90 is the trait, and it's going to increase the potency of Gyrskogel and Nostrand, which, potency buff, like we said, pretty common. We're going to see that a lot. And it's going to allow for the sharpening of the First Mind's focus upon successfully landing Raiden Thrust or Draconian Fury up to a maximum of 2 units. So it sounds like 2 charges, I guess. 2 ways to stack that. I don't really know how that works, but
so Raiden Thrust is your single target, so you're going to be able to stack it doing, fighting a boss, or then Draconian Fury's your AoE rotation, so you'll also be able to stack this resource in your AoE combo.
Nice. So that's hot. And then at 90, their level 90 awesome ability is called Whirlwind Thrust. It's a 10-second recast, a 15-yard radius, and a range of 15 yards, so AoE. And it sounds like this is what you're going to use your First Mind focus, because it's got a First Mind's focus cost of 2. So it sounds like this will be your spender for the First Mind focus, if I'm reading it correctly. But it's going to deliver an attack to all enemies in a straight line before you with a potency of placeholder 370 for the first enemy and 50% less for all remaining enemies. So it just sounds like an extra, ability that you get to throw in and weave in for AoE and just for straight damage, period.
Yeah, like it's an ability, so it's it's off the global cooldown. So yeah, like you're gonna be accumulating these First Mind's focuses as you play, and here's your spender. So it's just something to look forward to. Like line that up with your burst phases for even more damage.
So Dragoon, very, very, very looking very good. Let's dive into Monk. And before you give me a one-liner with Monk, I am going to just warn everybody right now. I am so unfamiliar with Monk.
So am I.
And Monk got a pretty heavy, not summoner level rework, but a pretty decent rework. And a lot of stuff was added to like their even earlier kit. So we're going to go over this to the best of our ability, but we want to apologize if anyone listening is a Monk main or interested in Monk. We are not going to do Monk
the justice it deserves.
Yes, because Monk got a rework and is looking good, but we're not going to be able to encapsulate it completely. So just bear with us. Please go watch Larryzaur or Mr. Happy or Ms. Tech or any of your favorite content creator that got to attend the media tours coverage of Monk. It's probably going to be far more comprehensive than this.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know if we should go over each tooltip.
Well, let's not dive into each tooltip because we're not going to make heads or tails of it. Cover the things that we can just very clearly see were changed. That being said, do you got a witty one-liner for Monk other than we don't know what we're talking about?
So my Monk is, do you want to suplex a train?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one because they are really kind of pushing Monk into that Saban direction.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're at. That is 100% the inspiration behind the new mechanic that they gave monks with this Masterful Blitz ability. It's even called the same thing. So let's get ready, guys. We're going to be suplexing ghost trains in Endwalker on the moon.
So a couple of quick notes with Monk. It looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, that they got rid of the Fists of Earth ability for Monk, the Fists of Wind ability, and the Fists of Fire ability. And in their place, they added some new things, and we're going to kind of go over all of the things that were added and try and understand them to the best of our ability. But at level 15, going all the way back to 15, they have an ability now called Steel Peak, which is going to deliver an attack, and it can only be executed while in combat and under the effect of the fifth chakra. The fifth chakra closes upon execution, and it shares a recast time with Howling Fist, and it can't be assigned to a hotbar, so it sounds like it's going to combo off of something.
Yeah, there's so many changes. It's actually kind of intimidating. Like, we're gonna be relearning Monk this expansion.
Yeah, and while Summoner is in a very similar boat, where Summoner had a massive rework that's hard to parse if you never played Summoner, I have the benefit of being a Summoner main and having really dived into that, and I can explain it in a way that hopefully makes sense. Monk, neither of us can, and that's part of the issue here. But just bear with us, listener. At 35, Monk is going to get an ability called Thunderclap, which is an ability, 30-second charge time. And this is that new charge we kind of talked about, where they can rush to a target enemy or a party member's location. It's a gap closer, and it can charge up to 2 times. It doesn't. They lost their charge ability, right, for damage. Their shoulder tackle, is that what it was?
Yeah. Yep.
And so then now they have this new charge mechanic, and unlike other people's gap closers, you can gap close to a party member or an enemy. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this gives Monk a lot of mobility. Dash in, dash out of combat. It's great.
At level 40, they get Howling Fist, which is also an ability. It's an A, and it's going to do an AoE with a potency of placeholder 120 to all enemies in a straight line before you. Again, similar to Steel Peak, it can only be executed while in combat under the effect of the 5th chakra, and it will close upon execution, and it shares a recast time with Steel Peak. So basically, it sounds like you basically choose to do Howling Fist in an AoE situation or Steel Peak in a non-AoE single target situation is how I'm reading that.
That's exactly what it is.
All right, perfect balance at level 50.
Here's the new thing.
The new perfect balance. So I'm just going to kind of read it off, and Fayer can help make sense of it if he's a little bit more familiar, but it's got a maximum charge of 2, which is tight, and it's going to grant 3 stacks of perfect balance, each stack allowing the execution of a weapon skill that requires a certain form without being in that form. 30-second duration, so pretty wide, generous duration to use 3 weapon skills. But it's also going to have an additional effect where it grants the Oppo chakra, the Coral chakra, or Raptor chakra, depending on the form required by the actions XIV. 40-second recast time on each charge.
Yeah, so basically their idea with this is you use perfect balance, and now you can use any of your weapon skills you want. Doesn't matter what form, but whatever form is required to use, you're going to get the corresponding chakra. Now the goal is to get 3 chakras and then use the another ability you get 60 called Masterful Blitz. And depending on how many different chakras you got depends on what ability Masterful Blitz becomes. So if you only have, let's say you used 3 abilities of the Oppo, and so that's only 1 different type of chakra, you're going to use Elixir Field. If you have like 2 Oppos and a Coral, you'll use Celestial Revolution. And if you get an Oppo, Coral, and a Raptor, you'll use Flint Strike. And so you're free to use whatever you want inside there. However, it's going to change the outcome of your blitz. And honestly, this feels a lot like the Mudra system. Whoa, I said that weird. The Mudra system with Ninja, where, depending on what order you put your Mudra in, depends on which ninjutsu you use. This feels a lot like that.
And you summed it up, the next one that I was going to pretty well. And at 60, you are going to get this move, Masterful Blitz, which is a weapon skill, and it's going to strike the enemy with a technique fueled by the power of your Beast Chakra. And like Fayer mentioned, 1 Beast Chakra will give you Elixir Field, 2 will give you Celestial Revolution, 3 will give you Flint Strike, and if you have 3 Chakra and both Nadi, you are going to get Tornado Kick. So depending on what you have done, you'll get these abilities. Elixir Field reads as follows, which Monk has already got Elixir Field, so it's just that, what is it? They Kamehameha the ground, basically. They shoot their laser. Yeah,
they did. What they did is they took a lot of abilities that Monk already has and sort of put them into this blitz system anyways.
Okay. So again, I don't know if Elixir Field already does these things, but we do want to cover them, and hopefully people familiar with Monk will be able to parse this. But you're going to do that same, it's an AoE placeholder potency of 600 and then a damage reduction for all remaining enemies of 65%. It's going to open the Lunar Nadi, so that will circle back to that Nadi we were just talking about. And it's going to grant Formless Fist, which allows the execution of a weapon skill that requires a certain form without being in that form for 30 seconds. Any additional effects associated with the executed action will also be applied. It can't be assigned to a hotbar. So again, reducing that button bloat, it looks like this is just going to tie right in to Masterful Blitz, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming Masterful Blitz is going to become it.
And then Celestial Revolution, again, is also 60. It's just a straight attack of 450 potency. It's going to open the Lunar Nadi. If the Lunar Nadi is already open, it's going to open the Solar Nadi instead. And again, it also grants Formless Fist. Flint Strike is an AoE, similar to Elixir Field. It's going to deal an attack to target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 600 for the first enemy placeholder and 65% less for all remaining enemies. Instead of opening, so it sounds like the potencies are the same as the Elixir Field. However, instead of opening the Lunar Nadi, this opens the Solar Nadi and also grants you that Formless Fist ability ability like we talked about.
Yep.
And then you get Tornado Kick, which again is also an AoE at 60. And it's going to deliver an attack to a target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 850 for the first enemy. So there we got that higher AoE, and then 50% less for all remaining enemies. And no naughties here, because I believe you spend the naughties to use this. And it's going to give you the additional effect Formless Fist, which we already talked about. And before you chime in, it can only be executed while under the effect of Lunar Naughty and Solar Naughty. So you need both naughties to pull off the Tornado Kick.
Yeah, so basically, like, the idea is, like, the rotation is going to be going through your Masterful Blitz 3 times to kind of see it all. So the first time you'll use the perfect balance, you're going to want to input, your abilities in order to unlock your 2 naughties. And you want to do them, you want to get 2 different ones each time. Like, so if you're AoEing, the first time you do it, you want to use, either Elixir Field or Flint Strike to get either the Lunar or Solar. And then the second time you do it, you want to make sure you input your attacks to get the opposite one so that you'll unlock the other naughty. And then the third time you do it is when you'll come in and you'll finish it off with a Tornado Kick, because now you'll have
single targeting. You would do Celestial Revolution twice because it grants you the naughty you don't have, and then you finish it with that Tornado Kick again.
Right. So
it's like we read it.
Yeah, it's like a 3-part thing where the end result is to have all your inputs correct, so that when you use it the third time, your end attack is Tornado Kick. So
great. So all roads lead to Tornado Kick.
Yes.
So at 72, Monk is going to get retroactive if you've already got it at 8, called Riddle of the Wind. It's an ability, 90-second cooldown, and it's going to reduce the auto attack delay by 50% for 15 seconds. So you're just going to hit things faster with your auto attack.
Honestly, this feels so weird and out of place. This just feels like they couldn't think of something else. But
yeah, I mean, it's a weird place even to retroactively add it. Maybe they just needed you to do more damage, and they were like, let's do it in auto attack. I don't know.
Yeah, I would rather just seen. It doesn't matter what I've rather seen. This just feels weird. Well, I'm curious to see if this will change later.
Retroactively going over some traits that we didn't touch on. At 54, Steel Peak Mastery is going to upgrade Steel Peak, which was that level 15 ability, to Forbidden Chakra. At 54. At level 60, you get the trait Enhanced Perfect Balance, which is going to, when under the effect of Perfect Balance, it grants that Beast Chakra like we were talking about in accordance with the form normally required. So weapon skills requiring Oppo Oppo grant the Oppo Oppo Chakra, Coral to Coral Chakra, and Raptor to Raptor Chakra. So at 74, they're going to get the Howling Fist Mastery, which is going to upgrade Howling Fist to Enlightenment. And then that's it for the pre-80 stuff. So that's the changes pre-Endwalker. And now we can dive into the actual, well, that all was new, but let's dive into the actual new stuff. So at 82, they're going to get the trait Arm of the Destroyer Mastery, which is going to upgrade Arm of the Destroyer to Shadow of the Destroyer, which conveniently is their 82 new weapon skill, which is Shadow of the Destroyer, 5-yard radius. It's going to deliver an attack with a potency of placeholder 140 to all nearby enemies. The bonus, if you're an Oppo Oppo form, is it's going to guarantee a critical hit, and then it's going to change you to Raptor form.
Pretty dope AoE. Monk right now even has some really good AoE, and looks like they're sticking with that.
At the 84 trait mastery, they're going to get Enhanced Thunderclap, which allows a third charge of Thunderclap. So,
Perfect.
More charges. We love it. And then at 86, they get a trait called Flint Strike Mastery, which is going to upgrade that Flint Strike we were talking about previously to Rising Phoenix, which is their new weapon skill at 86. Again, it's also an AoE called Rising Phoenix, and it's going to deal physical fire damage to target and all enemies nearby with a potency of placeholder 700 for the first enemy and 65% fall off for remaining. Additional effect, it's going to open that Solar Naughty, and it's going to grant that Formless Fist, just like we talked about previously.
Yep, just a straight potency upgrade.
And at 88, they get the trait Enhanced Brotherhood, which is going to guarantee that a chakra will open when a party member under the effect of Meditative Brotherhood executes a weapon skill or cast or spell.
Yeah, so get ready to be spamming your chakra spenders, because it's going to get crazy.
Yeah. And then at 90, they get enhanced trait Tornado Kick Mastery, which is going to upgrade Tornado Kick to Phantom Rush, which we kind of alluded to earlier, which is their new 90 weapon skill, which is also AoE. It is called Phantom Rush. If you want to suplex some trains, this is going to let you
train.
do it. But it's going to deliver an attack to a target and all enemies nearby with a potency placeholder of 950 with a 50% fall off. It's going to grant you that Formless Fist. And, similarly to Tornado Kick, it's going to consume those naughties. And that's their all roads now lead to Phantom Rush, not Tornado Kick.
Yeah. Monk's interesting, man. I'm actually looking forward to playing it. I've always really identified with Monk because I'm really into martial arts movies, and I just never wanted to play it because of all of the positionals. But now, like, the rotation seems to be centered around using perfect balance, and you still have it's gonna be cool. I'm excited. My Monk's at 70. I'm not leveling it till Endwalker, so I can level it with all these changes.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, actually. That's pretty good call. You can have that extra 10 levels to get to 80 to refamiliarize yourself with these new things.
Yep.
So we're going to dive right into Ninja. And before I go any further, I am going to apologize to anyone who understands Japanese, if these move names are even based off of Japanese, which I am assuming they are, and hopefully not assuming incorrectly. If I am, I'm sorry, but I'm going to butcher some of these names.
We all do.
And I'm also going to pre-apologize for butchering those names for Samurai, because they have a lot of those too. But we'll
Samurai's worse.
All right. But one of the changes...
My one-liner. Hold on.
Oh, yeah. One-liner. Yeah. Give me.
My one-liner is you can be even more like Naruto than ever before.
There we go. All right. So one of the changes Ninja got was retroactive to a 60 ability. It looks like it's just a straight up new weapon skill that they get at 60 called Horizon.
Yeah, Horizon.
Again, I don't know. Weapon skill. And it's at level 60. It's going to deliver an attack with a potency of 200. An additional effect is it grants Huton for 60 seconds. And if you're already under the effect of Huton, it's going to extend the duration by 30 seconds to a maximum of 60 seconds.
So, like, this one's weird because it's a weapon skill, so it's on the global cooldown. Like, you're not going to fit this into your rotation anywhere because it's taking up a global cooldown. I could see this if it was an ability and you're weaving it, but this is just... This feels like something to save you if you messed up somewhere. That's what this feels like.
Well, remind me what the ability Huton is that your, like, basically your haste, your hit things faster?
Yeah, Huton's a 3 mudra ninjutsu that just increases your auto attack speed, and you're supposed to keep that buff up at all times. You already have weapon skills that increase the duration. So if you're executing your rotation properly, it's never going to fall off. So, like, I think this is going to be a super situational skill. I don't think this is going to be any, like, staple rotation skill. This is going to be super situational.
Well, having skills to fall back on in case something gets messed up or bad, and you only have one global down to do it instead of having to go through a whole combo to find out, or reapply the mudra itself. So,
I'll be using it a lot. I let Huton fall off all the time because I don't pay attention and I execute things poorly.
So a trait at 56 that's getting adjusted is Adept Assassination, and it's going to upgrade Assassinate to Dream Within a Dream.
That's cool. Before, you used to have to use Dream Within a Dream to become Assassinate ready, and then you could use Assassinate. I'm glad they're getting rid of Assassinate because it's actually an animation lock, like Dragoon jumps. And while I think Assassinate looks super cool and the sound effect is super awesome, I think that's great. Don't animation lock us anymore, bro. So I think it's cool.
Don't animation lock me, bro. So at 82, they get a new weapon skill, and it's called Phantom Kamataichi. Man, I always feel dumb.
The thing with Japanese is their vowels are always pronounced exactly the same. It's not like English. So it'd be like Kamaitachi.
Okay.
Yeah, well, something like that. I don't remember my Japanese lessons that well. I didn't get very far.
So point is, it's a weapon skill. It's got a range of 20 yards, and Shadow is going to deal wind damage to target and all enemies nearby with a potency of placeholder 550 for the first enemy and 50% fall off. And it can only be executed while under the effect of Bunshin. Yeah,
Bunshin.
All right.
Yep, cool.
So 84, they get 2 traits. They get the melee mastery trait, which we've been over this before, but their 1-2-3 combo is going to get some potency buffs: Spinning Edge, Gust Slash, and Bava Bava
Kakra.
Kakra. Wow, that was.
Ba
I don't know why I wanted to say Bava Kadabra, but it was like that was way off.
Abracadabra.
Shukiho 3 is the other trait that they get at 84, and it's going to increase the Ninki gauge by 15 upon successfully completing a combo with Aeolian Edge or Armor Crush. So
yeah, I think this is up from 10. I think it gives 10 now. So this is just going to make your Ninki gauge spenders just you can be able to do it more.
Yeah. Cool. At 86, they get a new weapon skill called Hollow Nozuchi, which is a 100-yard range. It's a radius of 5 yards, and it's a recast of 1.5 seconds. All enemies standing in the corrupted earth of Doton is going to take an additional earth damage with a potency of 100, placeholder, and then 50% reduction. It's going to require Mujin Satsu to be executed as a combo action, and it can only be triggered while Doton is active. It's going to replace the, I assume, Doton ability. So it sounds like it's an extra AoE ability added on Doton.
So Doton is actually a 3 Mudra ninjutsu that you place down. That's the swirling dirt you see on the ground.
Okay.
And so that Hake Mujin Satsu is your second AoE combo ability. So it's going to add a third comboed ability into it. Now, I don't know which button it's going to replace because I think it'd be kind of weird if it replaced your ninjutsu button. So because that, ninjutsu is the button you press to actually execute Doton. So I'm not sure what button this is going to replace, but basically you drop Doton at the beginning of fight, you do your 1-2 AoE, and then you have this new Hollow Nozuchi ability as your third AoE combo ability. So, which is cool. And it actually looks cool. I know this is a podcast and everything, but I recommend everybody go look it up because every time you use it, it looks like a bunch of like sand snakes or serpents come out of the ground and hit for damage. It's super cool looking. I like
that's tight.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So at 88, their next trait is enhanced Maisui, and it's going to increase the potency of Bava Kadabra to 400 while under the effect of Maisui, which is a duration of 30 seconds.
Dope. More damage.
And at level 90, they get 2 weapon skills and a trait. So Ninja gets some cool stuff at 90. They get Enhanced Raiton, which is going to grant Forked Raiju ready upon executing Raiton for 15 seconds. And that ties into the weapon skills. At level 90, they get Forked Raiju, which is a 20-yard range. They're going to rush the target and deliver a lightning attack with a potency of placeholder 400. It's going to also grant you the effect of Fleeting Raiju ready for 15 seconds. It's going to increase the Ninki gauge by 5, and it will only be able to be executed while under the effect of that Forked Raiju. And then Fleeting Raiju is the secondary weapon skill there. And it's going to rush the target and deliver a lightning attack with a potency of 450 placeholder. And it combos off of Forked Raiju, and it can only be executed while under that effect of Fleeting Raiju. And it can't be assigned to a hotbar. So it looks like it just combos itself right off of Forked Raiju.
Yeah. Both of those are going to be one button, and it's going to come off your 2-part Mudra ninjutsu Raiton. So it's going to be great single target damage, as well as just giving you more. What is the word I'm looking for? Where you
Ninki
can move
gauge?
Around. What?
Was it the Ninki gauge?
No.
Mobility. Are you thinking mobility?
Yeah. Mobility. Yeah.
Well, it does give you more Ninki gauge, but more mobility too. And plus,
yes, yes.
Lightning stuff looks good.
Yes, as I said for the other ability, go look up a ninja video. Like, their abilities look dope. They got some cool looking stuff. They're super flashy. This stuff is cool. And these are gap closers, and they already have their Sukuichi ability, which is the placeable gap closer. And ninjas already have like a 10% movement speed over every other job as a trait from like level 20 anyways. Like, ninjas are going to be flying all over the place.
Zipping everywhere. All right, so we're almost done with the melee jobs. We got 2 left. Samurai, hit me with some samurai one-liners.
Sam, what did I have for samurai? Shave your neck beards, because this job is for Chads only now.
Oh my god. Okay. So it looks like samurai is mostly 80 and beyond, at least based off of what we are looking at. At 82, Samurai is going to get a new ability called Shoha 2, recast timer 15 seconds and a 5-yard ability, 5-yard radius, I should say. And it's going to deliver an attack with a potency of 200 to all enemies. Again, placeholder. Can only be executed after accumulating 3 stacks of meditation by executing Iajutsu, Meditate, or Ogi Namakiri while in combat.
Yeah, so this is like we already have Shoha right now. now, which is the level 80 samurai ability, where basically as you use your rotation, you unlock these little meditation things on your job gauge, and as a single target attack, now it just looks like they're giving us the option to utilize those resources as an AoE attack.
So that's great. Before I go further, we've mentioned it a couple times, but if you need that reminder again, Samurai is in fact the job where you can maintain your damage buff by doing AoE abilities. I believe that's retroactive. So instead of having to switch to single target to get some damage buffs up, you can do that through your AoE stuff now. So wanted to make sure we touched on that again.
Dude, that's like incredibly good, because like my samurai is almost 80 right now. I've been leveling it, and that's one of the most annoying things about it is putting up Jinpu and Shifu.
Well, now it's an AoE.
I love it.
84 enhanced Subami Gaishi trait. Now it's going to be charged. It's going to stack up to 2 charges.
I love this. So Subame Geishi is the follow up to your IA Jutsu, but at a higher potency. So when you do like your Madare Setsugeka, and then you immediately follow it up with another Subame Geishi, which turns it into a Madare, and now it's gonna have 2 charges. Cause dude, that's so good. That is so good. I'm so excited for Samurai and Endwalker. I think it's gonna flow so well.
Yeah, taking a quick pause, they really seem to be, it wasn't very few jobs had charges previously, like as of Shadowbringers. Like there were charges, but like it wasn't a lot. But it seems like a lot of jobs are getting this charge mechanic. And I think the charge mechanic, like being able to stack some charges of things, is super good. I just love that type of game design.
I do too. I know we harp on this all the time and we say it all the time, but it's just, it's so good.
So at 86, Samurai gets a new weapon skill called Hyo Setsu, which is going to deliver an attack with a potency of 100, placeholder to all enemies. If it combos off of Fuga, it becomes a combo potency of 120, placeholder. And the combo bonus is going to increase your Kenki gauge by 10 and grant Setsu as part of the combo bonus. So there you go.
That's great. I love it.
At 88, getting some more charges, the enhanced Maikyo Shisui. I butchered that. It's going to allow that special ability to have 2 charges.
So that's your ability that when you use it, you can use any of 3 weapon skills. Gives you a stack of 3, and you can use any weapon skills, and you use it to. Nice. Yeah, you use that to get your 3 send stamps so that you can, poop out another Madare Setsugeka, and now you're gonna have 2 charges of it. So, dude, we are gonna be. Like you're going to be throwing out like a Madare Setsugeka like every 20 seconds right now. The way this is like, it's going to be so good. I'm so excited.
I do remember that one because it was always great getting to land that. I did level Samurai to either, I think 80.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're 80.
Yeah. So I am, even though I can't pronounce any of these abilities, I have played Samurai, so I do know that one. I do remember that ability, like spending it and just getting all 3 of those buttons filled and then just going in for that big charge slash and being like, yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
All right. So Samurai at level 90, they get a trait and 2, a weapon skill and an ability. So let's start with the trait. They get enhanced Ikishoten, and it's going to grant Ogi Namakiri ready upon successfully landing Ikishoten for a 30-second duration. So do you remember what that one is, Fair?
So yeah, so your Ikishoten just grants you flat 50 Kenki.
So, and it's going to grant you when you use it, Ogi Namakiri ready, which if we go to their new weapon skill at level 90 is Ogi Namakiri, which is an AoE of 8 yards. So it's a little bit more generous than normal AoE radius there. And it's going to deliver an attack to all enemies in a cone before you with a potency of 800 placeholder for the first enemy and 75%. So a pretty hefty fall off for all remaining enemies. And it's going to grant a stack of meditation up to a maximum of 3. The action changes after you use this to Kaishi Namakiri, which is the other level 90 ability, which, brace yourself, is an ability, again, AoE, 8 yards. And again, potencies, while here are not final. The takeaway is that it's going to hit hard, and it's going to deliver an attack to all enemies in a cone before you with a potency of 1200 for the first enemy with a hefty 75% fall off. And it's going to trigger the cooldown of weapon skills upon execution, and it cannot be executed during the cooldown of weapon skills.
It's hot.
It's gonna hurt to get hit with that.
Samurais right now already have like some incredible AoE capabilities, and they just beefed all of that up. Like all of their new abilities are AoE.
Well, and even AoE aside, like, because this has got a pretty hefty fall off for AoE, which don't get me wrong, still AoE, but like having, because you already mentioned the name earlier, and again, I can't remember, but that big charge slash when all of your 3 glowy buttons, like,
your Madare.
Madari, I don't remember what that potency is, but I remember that potency being high. And now
it's like 800 or 900.
Yeah, now you have just like, oh, cool. You just got like even if you're using this single target, 1200 potency, no big deal.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like the way Samurai work is like when you use your Madare Setsugeka, you use it under the effect of your buff, which grants the next weapon skill a 50% increase in damage. So your Madare is already doing like 1300 potency damage. And then you follow that up with a second one at like a potency of 1100 with the, I don't remember the name of the ability, the Tsubame Geishi. That's what it is. The follow up immediately. Dude, like Samurai, all of Samurai's big attacks are like 1000 potency plus now. And they are truly the DPS monsters with no utility. If all you want to see is just massive, ridiculous numbers with super satisfying, the sound effects on Samurai are probably the most satisfying out of any job I've ever played.
Yeah, if you want to see that insane damage, like just pure selfish DPS as a melee, Samurai is your job. If you want to see it as a caster, Black Mage is your job. But we're not covering Black Mage today, but you have options.
Yeah, Samurai's good. I'm really enjoying my time with Samurai right now.
So the last job is going to be Reaper. And before I let Feyer funny one Reaper, I am going to say that we're not going to cover Reaper as thoroughly as we did these other jobs. And there's a couple reasons. One, we would have to cover every ability Reaper gets by starting at level 1, and we just are not going to do that. 2, the level of abilities that Reaper is going to get, like on an audio format, you're going to get lost. We're going to get lost trying to explain an entire job from level 1 to 90 in an audio format. It's just, this is not the place for it. We highly recommend checking out a content creator of your choice, whether it's Larryzaur, Mr. Happy, or Miztech, or any of the other content creators that got media passes. Please go look at those video guides to really understand Reaper. We're just going to kind of cover some very high level overview about how the job works and some of the takeaways that we personally found valuable. But moving past that disclaimer, Fair, give us a funny one-liner for Reaper.
Have you ever been so crushed by capitalism, you summoned a demon to inhabit your body to kill the Gillionaires?
That's probably the best one-liner out of all of these.
I know.
It's so on brand and on.
It is because like they were farmers. And, like farmers are generally an underappreciated job here. And, at least America, I can't speak to, foreign countries, but farmers are underappreciated. And now they made a pact with this otherworldly being. They became an avatar or whatever to this demon, and they picked up their scythes to go and hack down the enemies. So
it's so
capitalism.
Great. If I wasn't already going to play Reaper as like my second DPS job after I get Summoner to 90, like that alone would have sold me. Yeah. Instead of eat the rich, it's make a pact with a Void Scent and go murder them with a scythe.
Yes. You feel free to use that, you guys. Sell your friends.
So my takeaway from Reaper is that it's interesting as far as melee jobs go. It's a melee job that is going to be fairly selfish with their DPS. They've got some pretty high potencies and they're very strong, similar to Samurai. However, they have some very minor party utility. So I'm highly speculative. I don't know how the DPS rankings will be for jobs come Endwalker, but I don't think Reaper is going to be as strong as Samurai, but I feel like it'll be right behind, maybe right up there with like Monk, but stronger than Dragoon, because Dragoon's got a lot of party utility and they kind of balance things around. There's party utility while dealing good damage. And then there's my party utility is that I deal damage and a lot of it. And I feel Reaper is going to be somewhere in the middle there. They have 2 gauges. They're going to build up 1 gauge to immediately spend for some high damage dealing attacks that fill up another gauge. And then they spend that secondary gauge to essentially be possessed by that Void Scent demon we were talking about, and then just do some insane additional damage. And
yeah, it's like 3 phases.
Yeah, they've got their normal phase, their hyper phase, and then their I'm now a demon phased. And I don't understand all of this innately, as I have not played the job, and it's really hard to stand intellectually a job until I actually play it. But a lot of people have written some guides. The Balance Discord is a great place to talk to people who are interested in Reaper already, like theory crafting and tearing things apart. But the one thing that has stood out with all of my reading without truly comprehending it is that almost all melee jobs revolve around their 1-2-3 combo that propel the damage forward, whether it's Dragoon, where your 1-2-3 combo unlocks like your 4th and 5th combos, or Ninjas revolves around their combos and they have things to flavor things in. Reaper is a job where you're doing your combo when you've done everything else. Like the combo is the last thing you're worried about, because there's so much else going on that like it doesn't feel like a melee combo type job, because the combo is like that's the most unimportant thing that you're doing, and you just do it when you have nothing else to go on. It's kind of weird like that. It's kind of tight and appealing, but very, very unique to Reaper.
It actually reminds me a lot of Bard's like that, where when you run out of things to do, you fall back on your that very first attack. I don't remember what it's called, but that's kind of what it feels like, where you want to keep things going to the point where you're not utilizing that 1-2-3 combo. And I think that's really cool, that it's like a mix of physical ranged and melee, which sounds really appealing to me because I really enjoy physical ranged, and I'm super, super excited to see how this job plays. And the swag, for a better word, that flavor, that flashiness, it is here and in abundance.
Yeah, and just to kind of allude to some of the stuff I was talking about with them being a high damage class, their level 90 ability is Communio, and
Communio. I don't know how to say
Communio. I had a struggle saying that.
Communion with no N on the end.
Yeah, that's how it reads to me. But it's an AoE ability that has a potency of 1,000. So not like 1,200 like Samurai, but a 1,000 potency, again, placeholder, and then that 60% fall off. So just kind of an example, they've got that really high potency, hit in their toolkit. One of the other things that I really, really like that's more utility or flavor based is this, I forget what ability it is in here, but
like the gate, the mobility skill.
The gate, exactly. They can teleport around, basically. They've got this ability where, it's their ingress ability. It's ingress and egress. So basically, they dash forward and they leave behind a hell gate. And then if you hit it again, you can teleport to it. And you can do it on either a charge forward or a dash backwards. It gives them just some really cool mobility that is unique to them, but also like the Hell's Gate, the flavor is there.
And
it looks tight. And it's a very unique mobility thing. Well, actually, it might not be. It's kind of unique. It reminds me of like the teleport to ley lines Black Mage does. They have that ability that lets them teleport back. But this is like you have the flexibility of dashing forward and then being able to return back to the point you dashed from, or dash back and returning back forward. So there's flexibility there. It's just super cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it really plays into the class flavor a lot. And like, unlike ley lines where you just rubber band back to it, this one straight up has an animation of you entering a gate into some other dimension and then popping out of another one. And like it'll really be good, in when a fight really well and like, hey, I can place my gate here for later because I know I'm going to need to return to this exact point at whatever point in time. So it's super cool. I think we're going to see some interesting, fun things with it.
Yeah. I know I've said it before on the podcast, but I like to recap and say that it has not changed. But after Summoner, I'm going to start leveling my Crafters and Gatherers. But Reaper is going to be the next thing I level. Reaper is just call me edgy, but the fact that they're wielding a scythe and summoning a void demon, like that's just on brand for me. Like I love it. It
totally is. Like, I mean, heck, you played a warlock in WoW, and
and then I went to Summoner and had my pet class and my dog. And I was like, tight, but that like edgy, dark death aspect of Warlock was gone. And, now, Summoner, I'm losing the dots, but it's still going to be a very pet heavy class. And I'm summoning things, and then now I've got Reaper to fill that, dark, edgy,
that void.
That void. That was good. I get to fill that void. But Fair, hit me with your thoughts on melee. I mean, there's a lot more melee jobs than there are tanks. But how are you feeling? What are you excited for? What are you least excited for? Give me your
honestly, I'm pretty excited for all of them. I really like the changes to Monk. Reaper's super promising. Samurai is going to be even more satisfying, which I didn't think was possible. Ninja got some really, really cool abilities. I'm still upset, though, at the 5.1 changes where they put the Mudra uses on the global cooldown rather than being a weave. I'm not a big fan of that, so we'll see how I feel about Ninja in the future. And then I would like Dragoon more. I would, if they did not have line AoEs. I hate line AoEs. Dragoon or Ninja will be one of the last twos that I level for melee.
Which is funny because the melee jobs that appeal to me, which granted, I very rarely play melee. I think my gaming history, whether it's tabletops or WoW or really anything, I'm always drawn to casters. That's always my shtick. I very much love that archetype. So I've generally always played a caster. But in 14 specifically, I did finally dabble into melee, and I messed around with Dragoon, with Ninja. I even leveled Monk, I think, to 60. I got Samurai to 80. I think Dragoon is still at 60. I'm pretty positive. As far as melee goes, I am most excited for Reaper, but that's purely based off of the visual flavor and the way I understand so far how it flows, which once I get my hands on it, we'll see if I really do enjoy it, because visual flavor and all of that can only take a job so far for me. Like if I'm not doing well at it, I'm going to bail. So high hopes for Reaper. We'll see how it is on execution. But after Reaper, I'm really excited for Dragoon to try next. Monk has never really appealed to me and still doesn't, and that's more of just what I look for. Ninja, it's got cool stuff, but I don't know. I'm just not really there for it. And as much as cool as Samurai sounds to me, and as much as I already have it to 80, and as much as I love pure DPS big numbers, this may sound silly, but not being able to pronounce the name abilities to talk about it, because I just stumble over it, it kills the job for me. It's so hard to talk about because I can't pronounce anything I'm talking about.
Just look it up.
Yeah, I mean, I should. But there's Summoner to play and Reaper, so I might level it because I kind of do the jobs, but at the same time, I'm really going to devote my energy to only one or two jobs, and it's probably going to be Summoner and maybe Reaper. But we'll see how it all turns out.
Yeah, man. I'm leveling them all to 90, so you guys can count on me for all that juiciness.
But as far as this episode goes, that is it for today. That is our in-depth dive into tanks and melee jobs. Like I said, next episode, which will drop. This next episode is going to drop on the 28th. So the next episode will hit you on the 11th, right before Endwalker comes out. So we'll get it in for those job changes. But the next episode is going to be magical DPS, range DPS, and healers.
Yep.
If you've enjoyed our podcast, please tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell your dog, tell random people in 14 that you're playing with. Please share, subscribe, leave us reviews. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or have access to Apple Podcast, leave us reviews there. It helps immensely with the algorithm. We also have a Discord. Please come enjoy our company and the company of the community we have started to build. Talk about Endwalker, talk about any Final Fantasy you want. We are a friendly, lovely bunch. Our Discord will be in the comments. Feyer, where should everybody check you out?
You guys can find me at Feyerbrand. That's Feyer brand. At pretty much everything. I'm on Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. I release a lot of Final Fantasy 14 guides and content on YouTube. I'm really big into helping new players or players like returners or just people who just, need a little more help or information. I'm just here to help. My Twitch, I stream every Tuesday, Friday, Saturday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14 right now in preparation for Endwalker, doing a lot of leveling, doing a lot of treasure maps, just doing a lot of things. You can come hang out and we can maybe run some content together. And then, that's about it for me.
All right. And our website is at magusbrothers.com. And on Twitter, we at Magus Brothers. Drop us a line there. Enjoy the episode. But until next time, bye.